Hey friends, happy Thursday. Welcome to Privacy News TV. Exciting stuff coming up. We're launching a virtual book club for all of you who want to yak with us and with each other. I'll add the sign up into the comments here as well for those of you who haven't had a chance. Just a couple of quick notes. Hopefully you're all on vacation and not watching this. You're at the beach and stuff. I'm actually going to the beach tomorrow, but I'm here today. So why not a little quick update. Let me give you a special preview because I mean, those of you who are watching these videos, you're our friends, you're my friends. So you ought to get a little something extra that the people who just read posts or read our blog. Let me give you a little preview of something I'm very excited about. We have launched a couple of months ago an artificial intelligence and machine learning working group. And when I say we launched, we've got about 150, 160 member companies, academics, civil society folks who participate, and we look around and we say, what is it that we're all worried about, thinking about? Where is it that it would be useful for us to talk together and define some products, some projects, or some conversations? Obviously, machine learning was one. And so for a couple of months, Brenda Leong, one of our senior policy team, has been working on a number of topics. She and our friends at Immuna did a great paper on information governance and how to handle machine learning in a corporation where you would want to have the right types of oversight processes. We are going to be doing a training targeted at policymakers, regulators. Many of the European DPAs have hired many new staff to get ready for GDPR. Obviously, they're already experts on data protection law, or they're becoming experts, these new folks. Some of them may even be technologists, but actually understanding how organizations, industry, researchers are using some of the latest technologies takes a little bit of extra work. And we think, since we spend our time with the people who are doing that work, we can help put together some very high quality education. And the first one will be a side event at the International Privacy Commissioners Conference around machine learning. And registration is open for that, with priority given to policymakers and DPAs, since we're really designing the entire year-long program on a range of topics for them. The first one will be machine learning. Much more, if you are eager to join our organization in order to be involved, that would be incredible, because that's how we pay the bills and put the lights on and buy lunch. But the reason I'm talking about it today is if you take a look at the FPF homepage today, on the issues, you'll see a brand new tab called Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. And Brenda and her support folks have put together a really deep resource page. So not just here's what we're doing. I mentioned a couple of the activities, but if you are at a company or an organization and machine learning is on your agenda, you know, who has done any best practices? Who has put out ethical standards? Who's written interesting papers that you should be aware of about fairness and bias? Some of you read all this stuff. Others are busy, you got day jobs. And hopefully our curated collection of the articles, the opinions, the comments, the guidance, the educational resources that we've assembled there will be useful for you. So I've posted a link in the post here directly to it. Take a look. If there's something we didn't include that you think is sort of a must read in there, we'd be delighted to add it. Let us know. And if you want to get further involved. So we will announce this. We'll do a post and Brenda will describe some of the activities we have coming on, but a little bit of a heads up for those of you who are interested in this. The second thing I just want to quickly talk about today is a number of years ago, some of you may remember Joe Jerome, one of our policy councils, really great guy. Joe now works at the Center for Democracy and Technology, but he and I and Omer Tanay, FPF Senior Fellow, Senior Staff at the IAPP, and frequent academic co-author and policy co-author with me and some of the team here on topics. So we put out this benefit risk analysis for big data projects, because we saw lots of people working on assessing risk of big data, or even legal proposals that said, you know, if something you do creates risk, then you mitigate it, and if you can't mitigate it, then you don't do it, or if you mitigate it but there's still risk, then you maybe do it, maybe you don't. And we said, how do you have that conversation without also looking at benefit, right? So for instance, if I have a project and it's going to create some medium risk to individuals. And what is the project? It's going to prevent an asteroid from crashing into the earth and blowing it to smithereens. Or it's going to cure a dangerous disease. And I can mitigate the risk from medium to smaller, low in the middle, to 3, to 2, to 7, to 5. And then I've got this benefit. So clearly, ethically, the decision about whether this should proceed or not depends on a benefit risk analysis. And we thought that the risk was being well discussed and well analyzed, but how do you assess benefit? Now, look, I get that regulators don't want companies to simply say, there's benefit, so we're marketing, and that's good for you. So we win no matter what the risk is, right? Understanding that there needs to be a rigorous process for assessing benefit that can then be defended and be credible. What we pulled together here, which we thought was useful, and it was great to see different organizations build on it a little bit. We worked on a little bit of a model for how you deal with benefit. And we said, well, what is it? What is the benefit? Is it health? Is it keeping the world from exploding? Is it marketing? Okay, those are all somebody's view of benefit. What is the audience? Who is getting the benefit? Is it the person who is being the subject of risk? So maybe you argue that there's some balance that's appropriate. Is it society? Maybe we don't want to risk an individual because of benefit to society. Maybe we do. Maybe different cultures, different democracies, Western, Asian, US, might have different thoughts about who and how you care about who the recipients are. And then what's the size? What's the scope? Is this a giant benefit or is it a little benefit? What's the likelihood that the benefit will actually realize itself? And then you come up with some economic or some logical number that is relevant when you assess against risk. Okay, so when GDPR came about, one of the things that I was a little bit disappointed about was that the detail about how to assess risk was provided with lots of nuance. But what is the benefit? It seems like an interest is legitimate, and then you go ahead and you assess risk. Well, if you're doing a privacy impact assessment, clearly there needs to be input and an understanding of what is the perceived benefit. So one argument might be, well, legislators legislate that. But one of the things that I was really interested in seeing was a recent post by Winston Maxwell at Hogan Lovells in Paris. And he and the team there produced a example of how to think and work through a privacy impact assessment under the GDPR. And what they did, which I thought was very thoughtful, is they noted that when you mitigate risks, you have to figure out what are the appropriate mitigations and the appropriate levels for that project. And Winston and the crew argue that that nuance, what is appropriate, is where you can bring in the benefit. Maybe the mitigation of risk or the tools and the techniques that you bring are calibrated based on the benefit that you're looking to provide. It may not be appropriate to spend an enormous amount of money or use technologies that would eliminate the utility of the data or attempt to get the risk down to zero when, in the context of this particular risk, there is a benefit to the user, to the company, to the system, and documenting that is helpful. So delighted that they flagged some of the work that we did early on, and we hope that it can be a useful contribution. Anyway, link to both the benefit risk work that Joe Jerome, Omer Tanay, and I here at FPF published a couple of years ago, as well as the, I thought, interesting Hogan Lovells work to help guide around a privacy impact assessment. take a peek at our new AI tab. If you have any advice, let us know. And hopefully next week we'll announce sort of a formal public launch of our AI working group and invite others to join. There's already a great collection of leading companies, and we are hard at work on trying to help make sense of some of the areas where it might be valuable for companies to have some consensus, some ideas around how to identify and manage benefits and risks when it comes to machine learning, of course. Anyway, great weekend, and see you soon.